Hello and welcome to the Outcast. I'm your host HC, and with me is.
Wolf.
And we've talked about Nickelodeon so much, so we said why not talk about Cartoon Network? Because Cartoon Network has a lot of good stuff, interesting stuff, and also bad stuff. So why not
Mm,
talk about them?
sure.
Therefore, what is your experience with Cartoon Network? I'm
I
assuming.
mean, I think like many people, I grew up with them, right? I grew up with them, and I grew up with Toonami, like all that stuff. Like Cartoon Network is a big part of you know kid me growing up.
Hmm.
Like many people, I'm sure.
Yeah. To me, it was a bit more interesting because we had that channel, we had the Cartoon Network channel, but the thing is, it aired as it aired in the US. And the interesting part about that was that it aired only in English, no subtitles or dubs or anything.
Hmm.
So for a good amount of the shows while I was growing up, if you asked me to tell you what was going on in them, I would probably tell you that I have no idea, even if my life depended on it. So,
Mm-hmm.
so for a good while, the only thing I could really get into were the Tom and Jerry stuff because there was no dialogue in it, and the Looney Tunes stuff because I would watch the dubbed versions of them before. So, you know. But slowly, as my English got better, I did start getting into some of the newer shows that aired, and also some of them were dubbed on other channels at some point, so that helped.
Mm-hmm.
But before we start talking, going over the list that we have here, there are some stuff that are not on the list, which are a big Cartoon Network thing because we only have the originals, but like it doesn't necessarily list, Scooby Doo or the Looney Tunes or stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think honestly that Scooby Doo would kind of deserve its own outcast in a sense because there's a lot to go over.
The Cartoon Network original Scooby Doo, or just
Like
Scooby Doo in
Scooby Doo,
general?
like Scooby Doo in general has,
Yeesh. That's a lot to talk about.
yeah. But I will say this that obviously not all of the Scooby Doo shows are to the same level as either the originals or some of the stuff that came. But I still really enjoyed some of the Scooby Doo stuff produced specifically for Cartoon Network. If I can, point one out is something that aired in like 2010, which was called Scooby Doo Mystery Incorporated. That was a
That was the newer one, right? Like the one where like it was kind of like a darker, where they were more focused on the town of
Yeah, like I
they
said,
lived
more
in.
focused on the town, and there were like other Mystery
Yes,
Incorporated
yes,
before them.
yes,
That was
that one.
great.
That was really enjoyable. That was a lot of fun. Like that was
Yeah.
a good version of Scooby Doo. I feel it kind of stuck to that Scooby Doo formula, but also gave you a bit more, right?
Yeah. It made
Very
the
enjoyable.
characters
Highly
characters
recommend that one.
for. Mhm. Yeah, this one was good, and apparently I still need to watch that one. There's a new one that they have a guest. They literally have a guest character in each episode.
Hmm.
I only saw a clip of that, but the clip I liked, I liked, so I need to get into that at one point.
Scooby Doo also
But
has the new movie coming out as well. Like,
this
yeesh.
looks so great.
Yes, it
This looks
does.
so great.
I'll
I
admit.
love this.
Like, it's 3D animation, which is very new for Scooby Doo somewhat, but it looks great. It looks amazing.
Yeah.
Like, the trailer for
So
that,
yeah.
I will admit, really got me interested in it.
Mhm. And other than that, actually, when you grew up and you watched Looney Tunes stuff, was it through Cartoon Network or other means?
Um, Mostly Cartoon Network, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm. Yeah, like most of the ones I watched were also like through Cartoon Network. If they weren't on VHS, so airing randomly on the local kids channel.
Mm-hmm.
because there was no set timeline for the Looney Tunes. They would just air randomly. You couldn't even predict when it was going to happen.
Yeah. Yep.
And Tom and Jerry, well, it's Tom and Jerry. Tom and Jerry is brilliant.
Always been there.
Mhm. Not the new crossover things, except for the Wizard of Oz one. That was surprisingly funny in in an intentional way, not even oh my god it's all bad, it's hilarious. No, legit funny. So yeah, that's the stuff that's not on the list, but we can connect to Cartoon Network. So let's go on the stuff that's on the list. The first thing we have is the Moxie Show. I will tell you right now, I have no idea what this is.
Yeah, this was an older one. Even I kind of missed out on this one and didn't really watch it. So not too much to say on this one, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Okay, next up is
Sorry,
again
Moxie
some.
Show.
Mm-hmm. Another thing I'm not necessarily sure is Space Ghost. I
Really?
know I know the name. I just don't think I ever saw anything, and it's ironic because it apparently debuted on my 1 year birthday, like on the same day I turned 1 years old. There you go.
So
And
this one
I
I
have no
did
idea what this
watch,
is.
and I highly recommend you
Mhm.
go back and give it a shot a little bit. It's a weird thing that I think could only exist in the time that it existed in, because this started airing in like the kind of mid 90s ish, and it went for a
Mhm.
while, and it came back later on in the like early 2000s, right? But it was Space Ghost Coast to Coast was basically just an animated talk show that just
Mhm.
had little mini things going on within the animated talk show, and it was mostly an Adult Swim thing because it was more, mature audiences because they cursed and stuff like that. But I remember watching this here and there, and it was fun for what it was. And I think again, like it's very much kind of a thing of its time that only could exist in
Mhm.
its time.
Okay. I also see here that it did eventually move to Adult Swim, so I can
Yeah,
see.
like yeah, it moved to
Mhm.
Adult Swim and took on a more mature kind of thing because the characters would curse and there'd be other more mature things for more mature audiences and not for younger kids. But it was fun. Like, and that's I think where I saw it most at was Adult Swim when it moved. But yeah, I definitely recommend it.
Mhm. Next up is What a Cartoon, and correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't this like a sketch-like thing that had a bunch of cartoons in it?
I think so. Yeah.
Mhm. Well, I know some of the stuff got eventually were picked up into their own shows, so that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this was just a place for. Yeah, it was each of the 48 short cartoons mirrored the structure of a theatrical cartoon. Like, yeah, it was just a bunch of different short cartoons that were shown throughout this little thing to give
Mhm.
them a shot and see what, people thought of them.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I may confuse it with something else, but I think the Fairly Odd Parents started on this.
Might have. I do not know. Let me go through and read.
Because I know it's like there was a bunch of little shorts before the actual show was picked up, but I think it
I
was
mean,
through Water Cartoon.
reading this, it definitely served as the launching point for Dexter's Laboratory, Johnny Bravo, Cow and Chicken,
which
I Am Weasel,
which
Powerpuff
is
Girls, and Courage the Cowardly Dog, which we'll definitely get to those in a bit. But
Mhm.
not seeing anything about Fairly Odd Parents.
Again, maybe I'm confusing it because Family Odd Parents is Nickelodeon, so maybe I'm confusing it with something else.
But I do know that Cartoon Network has like this definitely it lasted for a while and worked as a thing, but they've switched over now to showing off their cartoon ideas, right? Like where they'll give a thing a shot. They've switched to doing that on YouTube. Like you can watch like, hey, here's a thing that we're thinking about giving a shot at making into a full cartoon. Do you want to watch it? And so they'll have it up on YouTube and judge by that how many views and stuff it gets. Now, I guess I think that's how.
There was YouTube in 1995.
No, this was that version of it. What a Cartoon was the
Oh, okay.
version that what served as the version of what YouTube serves now for Cartoon Network, right? Like Cartoon Network
Okay,
now
sure.
puts cartoons up on YouTube to gauge interest in them. and see if
Mhm.
they'd be worth making into a full series. Like if I'm not mistaken, Infinity Train, one of Cartoon
Mhm.
Network's newer series, got that treatment, right. Like it got a small little blurb on YouTube, and people really loved it, so they made it into a series for Cartoon Network.
Mhm. Okay, fair enough.
Which I
Um,
still need to watch that.
okay, yeah, me too. So the next thing up is Dexter's Laboratory or Laboratory,
No, I'm sure
depending on
you've
how you.
watched this one.
Of course, I watched this one. I don't think there was a kid who didn't watch this one.
Fair enough.
Hmm.
So yeah, this was a comedy thing and a lot of fun. It
Yeah,
was basically
uh,
just Dexter and all of his
and
many inventions, and how his sister Dee Dee would continually screw it up or
mhm,
make his life miserable.
yep. To this day, I'm actually not sure if Didi was actually stupid or if she actually screwed his inventions up because of malicious intent. I seriously can't tell you.
A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, maybe.
Maybe. But yeah, I remember Dexter's Laboratory. I enjoyed it. It was always fun seeing what kind of thing he would come up with in each episode and for what reasons as well. Um, and also and also Murdoch. Come on, you gotta love this laugh.
Yeah.
I actually remember an episode where he did everything in the tone of that laugh. Like whenever he would chew on food and then choke on the food, it will be the exact same way as the laugh.
I mean, let's be honest. Like this was, I think this is where the omelette du fromage meme came from as well. And like this was a meme
Yeah,
before memes were a thing on the
yeah,
internet. Like
exactly.
before the internet was really a thing, we had that meme. Everyone, I kid you not, I swear to God, when that episode aired, I heard so many kids at school saying that shit. It got
Well,
annoying,
what can you do? What can you do?
as most memes
But
do, as all memes do,
mhm,
really.
yeah. So, but yeah, but here's my funny thing about Dexter's Laboratory that I enjoyed. That this was one of those shows that was never dubbed for us. It either aired on Cartoon Network English only, no subs, or it
Mm,
aired with subs. It was one of the two. There was no dub.
interesting.
But then, but then, for some bizarre reason, when the Powerpuff Girls movie, something we will get to later, was released here, they actually screened a short episode of Dexter's Laboratory fully dubbed for the first time, and it's like, why? Like, what does this have to do with this except the fact both are Cartoon Network and Dexter shows up in a pump of goals every once in a while. It's like it was the most random thing to go into the theater to see the Pump of Goals movie, and then all of a sudden it starts with a Dexter's Laboratory short, dubbed no less. Like what?
They gotta treat you. They gotta get you
Yeah,
enticed.
yeah.
Watch Dexter's Laboratory. See,
To those curious, the episode was when what are those called? The thing that you always get when you're a kid. You know those red dots on your body.
chickenpox.
Yes.
Ah,
So it was in the episode where he gets those, and Didi
mm-hmm.
actually tells them that if you scratch them, you turn into a chicken.
Yep,
So he tries to invent everything to prevent him from itching, which obviously fails because what can you do?
yep.
So again, isn't that also like a random episode to choose to screen in theaters to the masses?
Yeah, I
I
would
still
agree.
don't get it.
Just one of those things, I guess. That's the episode they thought would appeal to people, So
Yeah,
that's the one they chose.
because people who want the kids who went to see the Powerpuff Girls movie are totally in the age for chicken poxes. This doesn't end before then. What can I say?
Absolutely.
So this was the funny thing I remember from this show, and also this was the show that was supposed to end after that episode where he meets his future self. But then Cartoon Network renewed it for two more seasons,
Mm-hmm.
and these two seasons count as not so good.
Mm. I don't think I watched it too much further after that, to be honest. Like for me,
Yeah,
Dexter's Laboratory was always a kind of background thing where it was funny, I enjoyed it, but I never really got heavy into it.
yeah, I would say the same, but I do remember some episodes of it.
Mm-hmm.
I remember like an episode where he tried to make up his own dad because he thought his actual dad was lame.
Mm-hmm.
I
I
I remember
remember
one.
all the different back and forth between him and his rival scientist, Mandark, was it?
Yeah,
Yep.
the one with the laugh. We just mentioned
Yep.
him.
That was always fun.
So yeah, Dexter's Laboratory, fun, great. Watch it if you haven't, but stop after that special where he meets his older self because after this, whoop. Eh. Anyway, next up is Johnny Bravo. You see, this was a background thing for me. This is something I remember the concept for it. I remember what's going on in the show, but if you ask me to point out specific episodes, I can't.
No, I can't either. Like this was also one of those background things for me as well. But I just remember like it was always fun and silly, right? And it was enjoyable for what it was. I think it's nothing that I would write home about or really recommend people go out and watch. But it was definitely like watch an episode or two so you can see what that experience was, right? I do remember one thought that I had. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but there was an anime that aired on Toonami at one point called I think it was Bobobo Bobobo, and
Never heard of it.
I definitely recommend checking that out because that's literally just anime Johnny Bravo is what that is. Like I swear to God, that's what it was. It was just anime Johnny Bravo with just weird
Bobo, you
fights and
said
other stuff.
Bobo, Bobo,
Yep.
Bobo. Okay.
Bobobo, I'll give you a link because there's no way you're gonna.
Bobo. Okay, I got it. Not really.
It's just
Okay,
bo
so.
bo 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 repeated.
Mhm.
But here, I'll give you a link.
Okay, fair enough. So we don't have much to say about Johnny Bravo, and the only thing I can tell you about the next two shows, Cow and Chicken and I Am Weasel, is that I know both of those are connected.
Yeah, like I Am Weasel appeared in Cow and Chicken a lot, and
Mhm.
Cow and Chicken didn't really. I don't think they appeared in I Am Weasel that much, but they were definitely like they were definitely a part of the same universe, I guess you would say.
Yeah, this is like I guess you could say
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
the
I Am Weasel was
precursor.
a part of Cow and Chicken, and then I Am Weasel got his own spin-off thing.
The one thing I remember actually connecting from these two shows was that devil character. I think it was the devil. It was
Hmm.
red and
The red guy.
yeah, there was a red guy. Not the weasel,
Yeah,
because the
yeah, I know what you're talking about. Like he's the red guy. He played a devil-like character. I know what you're talking about now.
yeah. So him, I remember him being in both shows, and that
The
was
only thing I
the
remember about either of these shows is just the art style, and I remember like just how the characters looked. Like that's what comes out of my mind when I think of these two shows because it was very stylistic in a way, like the designs of the
another
characters.
Another thing I remember is that whenever Cartoon Network would show like movies, like full-length movies,
Mm-hmm.
they would use Cow and Chicken as the logo to like mimic the
Yeah,
Columbia Pictures one.
they would. That's
So
right.
I remember this, and another thing I remember about it uh, is that for some reason the way one of them says chicken is some sort of a meme, at least in
Yep.
the internet groups that I'm watching on YouTube. They would for some reason go chicken every once in a
Mm-hmm.
while. So and they said it originated from that show. So good, I guess. I don't know.
Fair enough.
Next up, sugar, spice, and everything nice.
Mm-hmm.
With the addition of Chemical X. It's the Powerpuff Girls. Now, this was my shit. This was my shit.
Fair enough. This was a lot of people's shit. Like, this was a lot of people's shit, really, to be honest.
Mhm.
I didn't get into it as much because I think, like, by that time I was getting quite a bit older when it was started airing and everything. So I wasn't as much into it, but I still watched some of it and still enjoyed it. Like, it was still great when it first aired and came out, right?
Mhm.
And we're not talking about
Um,
the remake Powerpuff Girls.
we'll get to this shit later, but for now, let's talk about the
I the one
original.
thing that I remember that sticks out in my mind about the original was him and
Yeah,
how just how
uh,
creepy he was. Like, I remember just
like,
watching the
like
show and seeing him
honestly,
appear in episodes and
two of the
genuinely being
creepiest,
creeped out by that.
yeah, two of the creepiest episodes in that show is where he's the villain. One where he makes everyone hate the Powerpuff Girls, and the other where they like travel back in time into like where they accidentally caused the apocalypse or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was definitely some creepy stuff with him.
Mhm. But anyway, regarding the power, two things that I want to point out uh, on the show itself. That, like I said, for we had Cartoon Network as a channel without subs or dubs or anything. So I would just watch the pretty images and not necessarily get it. And this was the thing for the Powerpuff Girls for a long while. Until for some one day, someone from absolutely fucking nowhere decided, you know what? Let's dub this show for the kids to enjoy because it's still running in the US. And like, so it was just so random for all the sudden scenes promos for it being actually dubbed. So then I started getting more into it, and then everyone in my school was like, "Oh my God, this new show, The Powerpuff Girls, is so cool because there's action for the boys and girls for the girls." I'm assuming, I don't know, but but
No,
and
the idea, right? Like, is it's always kick-ass girls being kick-ass. Like, what's not
yeah.
girl empowerment? Woo, yeah.
Mhm. I think that's the show that turned me into a feminist, but anyway, the
Mm-hmm.
thing is that so everyone at my school was going ape shit about this when it started airing, in a channel everybody had.
Mm-hmm.
So but then like me and some of my friends who had Cartoon Network through satellite or cable were like, oh yeah, we know what this thing is about, but now we can actually understand that, so that's cool. And then the other thing I want to bring up is the Powerpuff Girls movie. Have you seen that?
Ooh, which one? There was more than one, was there not?
The theatrical one.
Um, I think so. Yes, I've seen bits and pieces. I don't think I've seen the full thing all the way through, but I've seen enough of it. I remember, like, the look of that was so kind of just
It
better
was
than
the
the
look of
show.
the
But
it was
like,
the look of
it
the
was
show
the
with
look of
more
the show.
budget.
Yeah, the look of the show with way more budget. It was just interesting to see, right? Like, it almost kind of didn't fit in a way.
Here's what I remember about the movie.
Uh-huh.
I was so hyped for that. I was so hyped for that movie because you see this when you see this poster, I would still say I love the poster for this thing. But
That's the
and
movie
if
that
you
the, to give a bit of story background. That's the one that focuses on Mojojo, right?
yeah, Mojo Jojo,
And him
yes.
tricking the girls.
Yeah, it's basically the origin story.
Yeah.
And then came my disappointment when I went to see the movie, opening weekend, mind you. And all I got was an hour and a half long version of the opening. Even as a kid, that disappointed me. Like, wait, this movie was 2002, I think, right?
Yes.
Basically, I
Yeah.
was 9 when this movie came out, around 9. I, at this point, I shouldn't have the ability to criticize something I like. And even then, I was disappointed by that movie.
Fair enough.
Uh, this movie sucks.
Fair enough.
Like, and it's kind of like I know people are probably going to use the judge it for what it is, not for what it's not. But at the same time, I tried giving it another watch a few years ago with an open mindset, and it's still not good because if you're not a fan of the original, half of this movie you're not gonna get. So yeah, this movie sucks. How did it get good reviews? I have no idea.
I mean,
But
I didn't hate it, but it was definitely not something that kind of stuck out to me as this was amazing, right? Like it was there, is what it was really.
I hated this movie so much. But
Moving on to an even
not,
better show.
yeah, but just to say, not that the movie discredits the Powerpuff Girls or, some of the later episodes were starting to get a bit but I have a lot of fun memories with the Powerpuff Girls, and
Yeah,
yeah,
it was an enjoyable show.
it's a good show, and Bubbles is the best. Moving on.
Fair enough. An even
Ed
better
and
show
Eddie.
though. Ed and
You
Eddie.
know,
I
you
love
know,
this.
it's funny that you say this because this for me was one of those original gross out shows.
I don't. I guess kind of. I feel like it has a lot less of that than I've seen from other shows, though.
Yeah, I guess I get what you mean, and okay, so and Ed and Eddie, I know a lot of people like this one, but this is another. It was mostly a background noise for me. I
Yeah,
didn't.
I get that. I got into this one a bit more. Like I enjoyed it a lot more at the time. I guess it just hit me at that right age, I suppose. But I had a lot more fun with this, and it was definitely this one's more focused on comedy and more focused on these three kids kind of trying to get their bit of candy all the time, and they always come up with these different schemes, and none of them rarely, if ever, work, and they always fail, and they get in trouble, and there's a lot of memes that come from this one as well. You know,
Yeah, I've seen some of the memes.
it's like too many memes to count. But yeah, like I had fun with the show. It was always it was definitely more often than not like if this was on, I would pay more attention to it than other shows at that time. Just because again, like I just enjoyed it. It was fun.
Okay, fair enough. So I guess moving on to My Clue and Out. I have no idea what this is.
I remember this one, but I never watched a lot of this one. This one was, if I'm not mistaken, like it had that. No, I am thinking of the wrong thing. I do remember this one though. This one was weird. It's just kind of a girl on on this island has different adventures with some islanders. That's all it is. It was.
Okay.
It doesn't stick out. I can't tell you a lot about it because it just doesn't stick out in my mind all that much. Like maybe that says a lot about the show, or maybe that says a lot about me. I don't know. But it never. I watched a bit of it. I remember it, but it doesn't stick out in my mind all that much. To be quite honest, so I can't
It's
say a
fair.
lot about it. To be honest.
Well, so next up is Courage the
Moved
Cowardly
on very
Dog.
quickly.
Yeah. What
Shows
can
how
you do?
much you care about that show. Gosh, HC.
Well,
Jeez.
I fully admitted I have no idea what this show is even about. So
But fair enough, I didn't remember a lot about it, so I can't say too much on it. But Courage the Cowardly Dog, that was my shit. I love the show.
Okay. I know a lot of people who love this show as well. I was surprisingly indifferent to it.
Really?
Yeah.
I think it was some of the later episodes with it just the relationship between Courage and Miro was always just fun, right? And Eustace always just being a dick. Eustace is my spirit animal.
This I remember. I know what you're talking about, and it is funny However, he can
The
always bring up
curmudgeonly,
that.
grumpy old man. Eustace is my spirit animal, HC.
Yeah, I know because you literally yell at me between every recording that I'm making you look bad.
Yeah.
The only thing you don't do is the booga booga thing because we don't have
I
because I
don't.
have no idea
I
what you're
also
looking.
can't hit you with a giant mallet either.
Mhm.
But one day, maybe.
One day. Until that day, I will just say, I get why courage has an appeal,
Oh yeah,
but
it was fun.
but it
It was
it
enjoyable.
was never necessarily my thing. I honestly I can't tell you even why I didn't like it. Maybe because I don't know, just
I think
didn't
that's
grab me.
fair. Like, it's definitely not something that's going to appeal to everyone, but I enjoyed it a lot. For like, you kind of had, especially as the seasons went on, right? Like as you got into some of the later seasons, they would do a bit more of a mystery thing as you kind of tried to figure out what was going on with Courage somewhat, which was always fun. And a thing that I definitely remember a lot and having just enjoying a lot was Courage's computer and how Courage's computer, how the dog knew how to use a computer, and the fact that the computer was just this smarmy British accent thing was always fun. That was like
Well,
an enjoyable thing.
go British computers.
You
Okay,
have
next
no
up,
clue. Moving on then, fine.
ship in the big city. I have no idea what this is.
I remember it, but not very well.
So, moving on.
I guess so.
Time Squad. Again, I have no idea what this is.
Really? Looking at it, this is another one I remember. It was basically when I watched this, I got a lot of what felt kind of like, I don't know if you remember the game Time Splitters.
No.
Oh, I definitely got some Time Splitters from this because it was just kind of going through time and just messing around and just different escapades and adventures of these three characters. This was fun. Like, it didn't last very long, right? And I definitely didn't stick with it very long either. So not a lot of it sticks out in my mind, other than the fact that I remember these characters and I remember the show. But it didn't really stick with me again. So I can't say too much about it other than I remember enjoying it.
So next up to another one that's a lot of people's shit.
Yeah,
Samurai
this
Jack.
one. Now you had to have watched this one.
I I watched it,
Or
but
if you're gonna say
not.
you didn't like it, I'm gonna.
No, no,
We're
no, no, no,
done.
no, 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 no. Okay, no. Let's not jump over the bridge. Okay. I did enjoy it. I did watch it, but I didn't follow it through. Like I didn't see everything.
Really, you should definitely go back to it. Have you
Yeah, this is
seen?
some.
Oh, go
I
ahead.
haven't seen the new season. I
I
know
haven't
there's
either.
an. I know that the new, but one thing I do remember is that, and again, this is one of those shows that kind of developed my fear of shows that were cancelled midway.
Mm,
So, because for the longest time there was no finale. They only the final season only came back like just a few years ago,
I.
and
Oh, go ahead.
And one of the things I can tell you is that this is one of those shows that a friend kind of forced me to sit down and watch. And this was one of those shows that I actually enjoyed because it was
Mm-hmm.
good.
I.
And one episode that I remember liking that there's the main villain Aku trying
Mm-hmm.
to tell kids the story of Samurai Jack, and then and with every retelling of the story, one of the kids will interrupt and say that Jack is going to defeat him, and he's like, "No, this is not how it goes." And then at the end, like the kids just tell their own story, and there's always this one kid that just wants to get on to the point where they fight, and they tell them, "No, we need to tell more," and then they fight, no, and then they fight, no. So
Mm-hmm.
I remember this.
I remember angry Scottishman who Jack ends up becoming best friends with, and is just amazing.
Okay, yeah, I remember him.
That was that was I think when I fell in love with Samurai Jack, and I think I bet you anything that's when a lot of people fell in love with Samurai Jack was that character. I think that character sold a lot of people in Samurai Jack for just how silly he was, but and over the top that he was, but also just fun that he was. Because Samurai Jack, like when it first started airing, before we got the newer season that came out a little while ago, right, was very kind of episode of the week style. There was not a lot of like you would see each episode was very self-contained. There wasn't a lot of through lines for story or plot, right? So everything was very self-contained, and it was just the different adventures of Jack trying to get Jack the samurai trying to get back to the past so he could defeat Aku, because Aku sends him into the future. Everyone remembers that intro.
Yeah.
That intro probably stuck in so many people's heads.
And the theme song.
Yes, but looking back, like I think I'm gonna probably butcher his name, Jendi, Jendi Tartakovsky. I'm butchering his
Yeah,
name.
he has a complicated name.
Yes, but he definitely makes up like quite a bit of the shows I've watched. I watched growing up as a child. Dexter's
Like he
Laboratory
did
he was
Dexter's
the
Lab,
creator.
didn't he?
Yeah, Dexter's Laboratory, Samurai Jack, Symbionic Titan. He even directed Star Wars Clone Wars, and he also helped in producing Powerpuff Girls. Like he had a big hand in a lot of stuff that I really enjoyed from Cartoon Network.
Yeah. And
And I
isn't
definitely
he
need.
didn't he direct the Hotel Transylvania movies?
I think so, but I don't know for certain. Let me see if it
Well,
mentions it in his
anything else
bio.
about Samurai
Not
Jack?
right offhand. I definitely need to go and watch that newer season. I never got around to it, and I definitely need to do that.
Yeah, same. I heard it's good.
But I
So
highly I've seen a bit of it, bits and pieces, but not all of it. So I highly recommend Samurai Jack though if you've not seen it. Like definitely, it's
okay,
a great show, and you'll get a lot of fun out of it.
so next up is Grim and Devil. Mm, I I know what the characters look like. This is something I've seen sometime, but I didn't follow it. I have no recollection of what it's about.
Yeah, this one doesn't stand out in my mind. I do remember um the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy came from this, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's something I know too.
That
And
sticks out a
you
lot
know,
more in my mind. This
jumping a bit
one
ahead,
doesn't.
seen the I haven't seen the Adventures of Billy and Mandy.
Huh, fair enough. Um, well, going straight into that one, since that did come off as a spin-off as this one, I can't say too much about Grim and Evil. I don't remember much of it. Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, I do remember quite a bit of. That was always enjoyable, but it did kind of stay more background for me than something I really got into, like say Samurai Jack or Courage the Cowardly Dog, right? Like it was there. I would watch some of it, but I wouldn't really pay a ton of attention to the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy either. All
Okay.
I think I can really remember from the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy was Mandy apparently being way more evil than the Grim Reaper himself.
Well, that's irony for you.
Mm-hmm. But I guess moving on to the next one. Whatever happened?
Whatever happened to Robert
Robert
Jones?
Jones. This one, I don't know.
Okay, so I'm not the only one. Good.
Like, looking at the image they provide for it on the list we have, it looks familiar, but I just have no recollection of this one whatsoever. Like, this is one that I definitely missed. So, moving on again.
To Codename Kids Next Door.
Now, did you watch this one?
Here and there.
This one was also fun. This one was something I got a bit more into as well. Not as much as I would say Samurai Jack.
This is something that I remember watching on because one of my friends at the time had a very similar drawing style to this show, and he was really into it. And so I've seen an episode here and there. Like was it like a bunch of kids in the same neighborhood who like team up for stuff? I don't
Yeah, it was
necessarily.
basically a kids versus the adult show, and the kids go on these on these adventures to stop the adults in their evil plans of turning the kids into adults and ruining their childhoods and things of that nature, and just being a kid. And they had this big treehouse fort that could do all these different things, and they were all these different, and basically it was kind of a spy drama thing, but with kids. It was fun.
Okay.
It was really enjoyable.
One thing I do remember is that the creator apparently had a pilot or a storyboard for like a spin-off show where the kids would go to space, and this and Cartoon Network never picked it up, and fans are annoyed about this.
Hmm. That's not one I know of.
What did you hear about it?
I don't know anything about that, so I can't say nothing.
Oh. I remember seeing storyboards of like a version where they go to space, like they find a spaceship, and I don't remember exactly. Look it up. Um, so we're getting into 2003, and this is a show that's not on the list because it's not an original Cartoon Network show, but Teen Titans.
Yes. Wait, what? You're skipping.
No, I'm not skipping. This is not on the list that we're looking at because not this is not like an original Cartoon Network show.
Yes.
This is because it's a DC property.
Mm-hmm. So, what about it then? You bring it up.
Well,
you kind of sprung it on me after Kids Next Door. I was looking at the list still.
yeah, so I said it's not on the list, but it aired around the same. It's around the same time in 2003. So
yes.
Teen Titans, great show.
Yes,
first exposure to the team, like with the exception of Robin, but Robin is also connected to Batman, so you obviously know about him.
It was definitely one of my first experiences to the kind of the wider DC universe, right? Like Starfire,
even though
Raven,
it's not
stuff like that.
Yeah, even though it's not connected to the shows that were made before it, like it's not connected to Batman the animated series or anything.
Yeah, I definitely remember talking a while back about your favorite character from another show having the same voice from a character from this show.
Yeah, Beast Boy.
As fond, but I think, and not being as fond of the voice behind Beast Boy and Mikey or Michelangelo from TMNT. I don't remember. I wasn't as fond of him in his role from TMNT, and there were moments. A lot of the time, I wasn't as fond of the humor from him in Teen Titans as well. But there were moments where he really grew on me as a character, or Beast Boy grew on me as a character. Because I think Beast Boy,
this is one of the things I actually liked about this show, that in every season, another character had an ongoing arc. In the first season, it was Robin. In the second season, it was her name Terra? Yeah, it was Terra. Third season, I think it was Starfire. In the fourth one, it was Raven. In the final one, if I recall correctly.
And we never got to finish that show.
Yeah.
Instead,
that's one of the
Teen Titans.
That's one of the sad parts. This is one of the sad parts, that there was never a conclusion, and despite the Teen Titans Go movie actually hinting at it, the only thing we got regarding it is like a crossover between the two, which was fun, but it's not necessarily.
Telling me that movie was great, but I keep hearing people talk about the show, and I've seen the show, and the show is not great.
No. Teen Titans Go, the show, is shit, okay? As a spin-off and as a comedy show, I don't like it. But the movie somehow is really good.
I'll have to give it a shot.
Yeah, you should. You know what, if we're talking about it, if we're on the topic of Teen Titans, please say that I had zero intentions of seeing it. Like, absolutely no intention. But then one day, me and one of my friends were in this store that was open for a few months, and because we were kind of regular customers and we were also there when they opened, they kind of signed us up for getting free tickets to the, what was it, the press screening of it before it actually opened, and we were like, well, it's free, so might as well go and try and have fun with it.
It's free and something to do, might as well, right?
Yeah.
And it turned out you enjoyed it.
Yeah, and it's I remember actually telling my friend, How did Teen Titans Go to the movies ended up being a better movie than fucking Justice League? How
Oof.
is this happening? What
Oof.
world am I living in?
Fair enough.
Actually, if we may, one more funny story about this. Like
Go
when
ahead.
apparently this store brought a lot of free tickets to people because this was packed, and I can tell you, not everyone in that was like a critic or something. But there were so many people there, and when me and my friend were trying to get in, like there were a lot of people who actually got really into it and started yelling like "Titans go, Teen Titans go!" in order to, to get into the idea of everyone going to that theater. And then I'm telling to my friend, "Wakanda forever!" No, wait, wrong franchise. And as we're laughing about this, apparently some dude heard me, and he started going, "Yeah, Wakanda forever!" And someone heard him, and it was like, "Yeah, Wakanda." Before you know it, a bunch of people were yelling "Wakanda forever" while
Started a
entering to
wave.
watch a DC movie.
You started a wave.
Yeah, a wave. This was like a rebellion. Like you're screwing a Marvel catchphrase at the DC movie, not counting the fact that Stan Lee is actually in that movie. But that's another story. Well, so Teen Titans, the original,
Very, yeah.
great show,
Highly
and
recommend if you've never seen it. Highly
yeah,
recommend.
and Draven is the best.
Agreed.
Also,
Absolutely agreed.
the Teen Titans live action show, eh,
I haven't
that's
seen
all.
that one.
It's very much eh.
Great recommendation from HC.
Well, sorry for my opinion. This
No,
is all I have to
that's
say.
fair. It's I'm not giving you shit. I'm just saying I found it funny that the Teen Titans live action show. Eh. That's
Well,
all the
what do
input
you
you have on that. Okay.
like? Actually, Raven is done good in this show, if you ask
I
me. But
I
everything.
remember hearing like people talking about the costuming for it being really off.
Oh no, the costuming is terrible. Let's
Yeah.
not get. I'm
Like
talking characterization though.
okay, fair enough.
There's this. I don't like Starfire in that show. Um, Ryan Potter, God bless him, he's a good actor, but he's given so much. He's given nothing to do. Like in the first episode, he has like 2 minutes of screen time.
Oof.
What the hell? And do I need to say something about fuck Batman? Do I need to say something about this writing? Wait, where's
No.
Batman? Fuck Batman. Whatever you say.
I don't remember hearing great things about the live action show.
Like the attempts at comedy at this show are Dick Grayson Jason meeting Jason Todd, and he's like, oh, did he actually drive in Jason Todd telling Dick Grayson, "Oh, I drove in the Batmobile," and he's like, "He lets you drive the Batmobile?" It's like, "Oh, I see. He treats one Robin better than the other." This show is shit.
It doesn't sound great.
And
DC,
trust
it
me,
has its ups and
there are
downs.
plenty of times throughout that show, the episodes I watched of it anyway, where I would just throw away, "Oh, looks like someone wants a Dick's dick."
Yikes.
It's funny because his name is okay. I
It's not
moving
funny.
on with
Evil con
the show.
carne.
The show will tell you otherwise.
Eesh. No. So moving on to back to Cartoon Network shows, Evil con carne. Don't remember it. Doesn't stand
I
out.
don't. I have no idea what this is. Moving on.
Ouch.
Star Wars, the Clone Wars. I'm not a huge Star Wars fan, but I remember I know people like this.
This is even if you're not a huge Star Wars fan, I highly recommend watching this show. This is the 2003 version. Now, the 2003 version was fine, but there was another version that came out later that is way better. Like this, the
Okay.
2003 one didn't run for as long and had kind of more of a 2D style. There was a 3D style for Star Wars Clone Wars that came out later, and it was just way better. But
So is this the good one or the bad one?
this one is fine. This is the one that's done by the guy who made Samurai Jack. He's the one who he directed this version and created this version, and you can
I'm
definitely
wondering.
see a lot of Samurai Jack influencing in some of the styles and stuff. And I highly recommend watching it just for that alone because it's really interesting. There's only like
One
two
thing,
seasons,
one
and they're
thing
not
that's
that long.
worth mentioning, one thing that's really worth mentioning is that my favorite voice actor, James Arnold Taylor, is voicing, Obi-Wan Kenobi in that show. And this is a voice he keeps reprising because apparently he's the official voice double for the actor from the. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm remembering wrong. This doesn't like this one only has like 2 volumes, and volume 1 is 3 minutes long, and volume 2 is 12 to 15 minutes long, and that led into Star Wars: The Clone Wars, and that was the um 2008 version that got a lot more seasons and went on for a lot longer, and was very enjoyable itself as well.
Yeah, but okay.
But this was
Next
kind of the
up.
pilot for that, and it's just I really highly recommend checking this out if you just want to see more of the guy who made Samurai Jack and his take on Star Wars, which is really interesting.
Well, next up is Megas XLR. I have no idea what this is.
Basically, so I remember seeing some of this on Toonami. This was essentially just giant robot, but with redneck people controlling said robot, if I'm not mistaken. Like that's what it was. It was just uh, redneck giant robot. Yeah,
Okay. And next up is Foster's Home for We have nothing to say, so we move on.
it was fun,
Foster.
but I never got huge into it, and it didn't last very long either, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it
So
only lasted
Foster's
for about a
Home
year.
for Imaginary Friends. I know of this show. I've seen something of it, but I haven't actually watched it.
I highly recommend this one. The if you liked Powerpuff Girls, you'll like this one because this one has more of a kind of a plotline thing going through it as well. But it deals with a lot of interesting stuff and enjoyable stuff, and it was just a lot of fun to watch. And it had a lot of fun and enjoyable characters too.
Okay.
Highly recommend it,
Um,
and the movie that came for
and
it.
but a show that I couldn't stand for the life of me is Hi Hi Puffy Amiyumi.
I did
This
not
was
watch this one
annoying.
at all, so this one's all on you. I
I saw 1 or 2 episodes and it was enough for me. Like, no, thank you. These two are annoying. Go back to singing the Teen Titans theme song and shut the hell up afterward.
fair enough. Yeah, this one does not. Looking up images of it, it does not stand out to me at all. So
So after this, we have the life and times of Juniper Lee. No
this,
idea what this is.
I remember a bit of this one. This one was. It doesn't stand out a lot, to be honest. I don't remember everything about it. I just remember liking it and thinking, this was fun. That's all I can say.
Okay.
Bit of a American
So
Dragon Jake Long feel, if you remember that, but not.
yeah, I know what this. I know what this.
So yeah, fun, but not
Okay.
something that stands out.
So Camp Laszlo. What is this?
This is basically a monkey goes to camp, if I'm not mistaken. I remember this
Oh,
one. It doesn't stand out a lot. I bet if you saw an image of it, you would remember it really well. Like this is.
sounds intriguing.
Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, for that noise. That was HC, and only his fault. So complain to him. He moved or did
Hmm.
something to his mic.
Yeah, I just got up because I need to get some blood running in my veins.
Fair enough.
So I'm
We
sorry about
definitely
that.
made a bad noise
And
on the mic.
what can you do? Anyway, so that was Camp Laszlo. Sounds fascinating.
it,
Moving on.
it's it's basically it's they go to like a shite summer camp with a moose as the camp leader, and he's very, man, I hate running summer camp, and he's I don't remember everything. It's just basically a bunch of animals going to summer camp. It was okay. It doesn't stand out in my mind majorly. I'm sure someone will be in the comments like, "This was the best thing ever. How can you not have watched it?" Sorry, it just didn't really stick out to me as something that was amazing.
Mhm. So next up is my gym partner's a monkey.
You're just gonna skip Sunday pants like that?
Oh, I skipped something.
Yeah,
Okay,
Sunday pants. Apparently, I have no idea what this
Oh,
is.
I have no idea what this is as well. So okay, my gym
My gym
partner's a
partner's a monkey.
monkey. um,
We gave that
I
show a
only
fair
saw
shake.
I I watched one episode of that show, and that was enough for me to say this is not for me.
Yeah, I didn't like this one either. I
Like
remember it. I know what it is, but it just it
I don't get the idea that a kid is in like a school that's full of animals. So
mhm.
why is the human kid there? What?
Because of a
What?
mix-up in trans camps. He wasn't supposed to be there, but he ended up being
Oh,
there.
right. There's some bullshit. Yeah,
Yes.
less.
I
But
like how that's how you refer to. Oh,
but no, because
There's some
I
bullshit.
saw
That's right.
one episode. I saw one episode where like the monkey, voiced by SpongeBob of all people,
Mm-hmm.
is like mad at him for something, and then at the end, he tells them that the reason he was is because the kid said he was going ape with someone else, and apparently for monkeys, going ape it's something you do with your best friend only, and it's like, who wrote this?
It was
Who wrote
weird.
this shit?
It was weird. That's. I just remember it being weird and not being all that fond of it, and moving on. That's
Moving on
yeah. That's
to Ben 10. This is something I am aware of. I know people like it.
if you've not
I never
watched it, you
watched it.
really need to go back and watch it. I highly recommend Ben 10. Ben 10 was
Correct
a
me on this,
lot of fun.
but Greg Sipes, the guy you just mentioned, you didn't like as both Beast Boy and Michelangelo. I think he voices the main character.
I think so. Does it say? It doesn't say voice actors here. But I definitely recommend going and watching this one. Let me look him up
I
real
will
quick and
check
see
it
if I
out.
can. I definitely recommend going and watching this one because this was great. You
Mhm,
know, back in the day, like it was a great show and just fun and enjoyable to watch.
mhm.
And apparently they have a new thing going on for Ben 10, like a new
Yeah, I know there's
series.
another spin. I am aware of it and the stuff that's been going on with it, but I've never watched it.
But the original was a lot of fun. And apparently I've learned something that I
Mm,
didn't know after talking to other people who are way more into who got way more into Ben 10 than I would. Apparently originally Ben 10 and Gwen Ben Tennyson and Gwen Tennyson are the cousins traveling around with their grandfather, and
mhm.
Ben gets an alien watch that allows him to change into different aliens, and he goes around saving the day. Right? Apparently,
Yeah.
like there was always this thing between Ben and Gwen about kind of being in a romantic thing or having a thing for one another, but not. But they were always cousins. Apparently, originally, right, from what I understand, Ben and Gwen were supposed to be at the end of the series, like together, right, in a relationship,
Mhm.
and show that they
Okay.
did have feelings for one another. But apparently, Cartoon Network did not like that. So they said, make them cousins, no relationship. So they had to change that up. I did
Oh.
not know that.
Hmm.
Apparently, Cartoon Network, the people, the executive stuff like that, had an issue with it for some reason.
Interesting case of studio meddling.
Hmm. I don't remember all the details. I just remember being told that and it being kind of this weird thing.
Mhm.
Because you could watch the show and the way those two characters act comes off as a bit, these are supposed to be cousins, but And apparently that's why, because they were originally, it was, originally written for them to be together because they weren't supposed to be cousins, apparently.
Man, I'm just thinking about if Kim Possible was all of a sudden changed to be like this.
Uh, Ron and Kim
Oh
being
well.
related. Hey.
Mhm.
Incest is wincest, as they say.
Yeah. Well, with these last names like Possible and Stoppable, wouldn't you believe they would?
Do you really want to dig that hole, HC?
Well, I can tell you right now, Ron Stoppable is supposed to be Jewish. As a Jewish person, I haven't met a Stoppable in my life. There you go. Moving on.
Fair enough. Moving on. Squirrel Boy.
Moving on.
Watch Ben 10. Squirrel
No,
Boy.
no idea what this is.
Nope. Got nothing on this one either. Apologies.
Sorry. I think also most of the stuff is going to pop up now. I don't have much to say because I didn't have a lot of time
Class
with
of
it.
3000. This was around this time I started to get out of Cartoon Network. So Squirrel Boy Class
Yeah.
of 3000, which is coming up next, I can't say anything on. These were just shows that I missed. Chowder, I can say something
No.
about. I watched some of that. This is from the same person. This is from one of the storyboard artists. Like this was created by one of the storyboard artists who worked on SpongeBob SquarePants and the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, and you can definitely tell it. Like this one is very out there, very weird. The only thing I remember from Chowder is the one thing that stuck out to me is what was his name? Let me see if I can find it. Schnitzel, because Schnitzel would only talk in rado 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 rado, just a very deep, very very deep. Like I absolutely recommend checking out and listening just to his voice because it was just rado 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 rado. That's how he talked all the time, extremely deep. So that was fun, and also the show would switch between styles a lot. Like you would go from like 2D animation to 3D animation to puppet to stop motion. Like the show, very experimental in a way with how it would just switch between like styles for jokes. Very weird, but not something I hated. It was enjoyable for what it was, for my little experience that I did have with it.
Okay.
I recommend watching an episode or two just for the experience. I don't know if I would say stick with it, but I definitely recommend checking it out for the experience. It was something. That's all I can say.
Okay. So if we can skip a few shows here because I haven't seen anything.
Transformers Animated, I can't say much about it. It's Transformers, so yay Transformers, but I didn't really stick with it or have too much with it. Ben 10 Alien Force, is this the one I think it is? Ben 10 Alien Force is Ben 10, but they're teenagers now. So I recommend it. That was also fun. It didn't last very long, if I'm not mistaken, but it was definitely enjoyable for what it was and had a bunch of good stuff going on.
I do want to say that there are two shows here: regular show and which I know people really like, but I'm sorry, I just didn't get a regular show and Adventure Time.
Okay.
I am sorry to the people who like those shows because they have huge fan bases, but I never got the chance to actually sit down and watch any of them. I'm sorry, I know, and it's nothing against the shows themselves. I just didn't have the time.
So, sorry. I'm looking at the Ben 10 thing. Go again?
For the love of God. Regular show, Adventure Time. Probably great shows that have big fan bases. I didn't get a chance to watch any of them.
Really? All right. I'll get to them in just a second. Ben 10 Alien Force was basically Ben 10 but redone in a different style. I told you wrong. Ben 10 Ultimate Alien is a continuation on from Alien Force, but it's Ben 10 grown up and an older teenager now. Both of those I recommend. They were pretty decent and they were fun, enjoyable. The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack. I never liked that one, to be honest.
I have no idea what this is even, so...
Fair enough. I didn't like that one. I never got into it. The Secret Saturdays, I remember a bit of. That was basically another spy show series, kind of like Johnny Quest back in the day. I never got huge into it. Getting into Adventure Time, I definitely watched some of this, not a lot. This is highly recommended, a great show, has a huge fan base, touches on a lot of great stuff and themes and different things that it, really just great show, highly recommend. Even though I didn't get to watch all of it, it was still enjoyable for what it was. Regular show is more laid back, just kind of nonsense stuff with these characters, right? Like, genuinely, I've really enjoyed this one. I didn't watch every single season of it, but I highly recommend this as well. Like, just
Mhm.
very enjoyable, fun show. Um, Generator Rex. I can't say too much on that one. Doesn't stand out in my mind.
Never even heard of it.
Okay, fair enough. Symbionic Titan. This is another from the guy who created Samurai Jack. I highly recommend this one. This one's a lot of fun. It's another, robot, mecha thing. If you
Hmm.
enjoy mecha and, kind of going up against, kaiju. Actually, you liked Three Below, right?
Yeah.
I recommend this. It only has one season. It's 20 episodes. It never got to continue on, so bit of a shame that. But I recommend this one. If you like Three Below, I think you'll kind of enjoy this. It has that same vibe and feeling as Three Below, but it's, styled by the guy who made Samurai Jack. So expect a lot of stylization and animation in that kind of mindset.
Nice. I'll put it in the internet list of stuff.
After that, there's Robotomy. I have no idea. I really don't. I completely missed that one. There's the Problem Solvers, which sounds familiar, but I don't remember anything from. Then there's Gumball, The Amazing World of Gumball. This one I definitely know of and have seen some of. It was never one
Heard
I
of
got
it.
huge into.
Heard of it. Never got the chance to check it out.
It was never one I got huge into, but I definitely remember it. It was okay. I didn't hate it. It was fun, but I never really got big into it. And we go back into Secret Mountain Fort Awesome. I have no idea. Ben 10
Nope.
Omniverse. This is another one they redid um, Ben 10 with, and this one I missed. I just never got into it, so I can't say much on it. Uncle Grandpa, I remember seeing an episode of and just did not like it all. A
Yeah, I
few episodes
heard
of,
terrible things.
hated that one. So, Steven Universe, this is a big one that has a huge following.
Yep, yep. And I did watch like half of the first season, and I stopped not necessarily because I like it. I enjoyed what I saw. Just these cases of shows that you just for some reason stop and you don't really keep going, even though I I know it gets way better after that. But
Mm-hmm.
I need to find the time to actually sit down and catch up on it because this is
I
why I'm also
watched.
not necessarily spoiling myself with anything that's been released because apparently the show is concluded recently.
Yes, it has. I watched an episode or two of this, and I watched the first two episodes, and I'm gonna piss a lot of people off. I didn't like it.
This
I've
is
heard
another
people
thing.
say it gets better as it goes on, but I just didn't. I just didn't like it. I did not get into it. I did not enjoy it from based on the first two episodes, and I'm not sure if I'd want to stick with it.
Like I enjoyed what I saw. I want to keep going with this, but I also realize how people are not gonna get into it
Mm-hmm.
for various reasons.
Completely fair.
Mhm.
Um,
Well,
After that, we have a few other shows I've not seen. Over the Garden Wall, I'm going to bring up because I've actually heard really good things about Over the Garden Wall, apparently. I've heard a lot of people say, recommend that I should watch this, that they think I would enjoy it. I don't know if I would or wouldn't, but I've heard a lot of people say good things about it. I mean, it is only one season at 10 episodes, so it's definitely not that big. It's not that hard to spend time on this, but I just haven't yet. But I've heard a lot of people say, like, I loved this. You should watch it. I think you'd really enjoy it, but I just never have. So, if you're someone out there who also recommends it, tell me why, I guess, in the comments below.
another thing I see here is We Bear Bears. Again,
Yep,
I heard a lot of good stuff, but
same. I've heard good stuff, but never watched it myself. After that, we have
well,
the
long
Powerpuff
live the
Girls.
low
Oh,
oils.
Long of the Worlds. This one I don't know anything about.
Your guess is as good as mine. I have
Fair enough.
no idea.
So moving on to something I do know you know something about. The Powerpuff Girls newer series.
Uh,
I
For
definitely
clarific
did not hear good things about this one.
for clarification, because the people are going to ask how did I watch this and not all of Steven Universe. So here's the thing: I haven't seen a single episode of this show from beginning to end, with the exception of the Teen Titans Go crossover, because a friend, bet me that I'm not going to last that entire episode. Well, but I supposedly did because it was surprisingly well done. I can't believe I'm saying this. But the thing about the Powerpuff Girls 2016, I don't need to see an episode. I've heard plenty of things to give me the indication that no, when
Same.
they cut a woman and they cut their teacher's boobs for some reason, because apparently they want to like be all they want to bring up the girl power thing. But here's the thing: how is deleting a character's boobs making it a girl show? You know what I mean?
I, I don't, girls don't have breasts, HC. Don't you know? They just don't exist. I
Wolf,
guess.
don't even joke about this. This is the stupidest thing. But you know something?
I've heard bad things about this show.
Let's bring this in. Let's kick it up a notch. Want girl power? Okay. Why aren't the Powerpuff Girls cool in this? There's an episode where apparently the mayor has to save them. The mayor. That idiot saves the fucking Powerpuff Girls. Do I need to say what this show sucks? Do I
I've
need
not
to
heard
say
good
it?
things.
But I serve this one. I want to, because this takes the cake. And no, I'm not talking about the fourth Powerpuff Girl that's a teenager for some reason. No, I'm not talking about this. I'm talking about the writer that wrote himself into the show to be in a relationship with Blossom. No, I'm not joking. This is something that happened. And as much as people say, oh, it wasn't necessarily this, it's a joke. No, the guy has basically the same name as the character. He looks like the character, and he voices the. This is fan fiction coming to life, people.
Okay.
Also
Like
twerking.
Like I said, I've heard very bad things about that show.
It's terrible. It's awful. Why does it exist? The sad part is that apparently it. Also, I don't get why they recasted the Powerpuff Girls themselves, but every other character has the same voice.
Weird.
Yeah,
Well, I guess
so.
the Powerpuff Girls, I think they were done by not older people, right? Like they were done by younger people, right?
You
Like the
mean
original Powerpuff Girls? They were done by younger, they were like voiced by younger VAs, were they not? Or no?
no. At least they did grow up since the show, but they still voiced them fine 2 years before that reboot.
Oh, no idea then. Maybe they just didn't like them. I don't know.
Something. The thing that annoyed me the most is that Tom Kenny, who voices the mayor and the narrator in both the original and that show, has claimed that the original creator of the Power Girls, Craig McCracken, I think is his name, that he apparently gave his blessing to the show, but then the creator actually go out of his way to say, no, I never gave them their blessing, and if anything, I want them to stop making this.
Eesh. Ouch.
Yeah. Did I also mention that they made did I also mention that they made a fourth Powerpuff Girl? Because that's what we needed.
I heard about that.
She's telepathic.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck, this show is stupid. Anyway.
Moving on.
Moving on.
A lot of these shows I really can't say I've heard anything about. I know Ben 10 got a new series. Man, looking at this list, by the way, Cartoon Network went in hard on Ben 10. There is 5 different renditions of Ben 10 on this list, by the way. 5.
Yeah.
All of them got like
And I am going to
at
jump the
least
gun
two
a bit
seasons
and
of as well. Like
uh,
they went hard on
uh,
Ben 10. I
one
didn't
thing I
watch the
will
2016
say.
series of Ben 10. I will say, like, I've not seen anything about the 2016 series of Ben 10, so I can't say anything. But go ahead.
So the only thing I have to say about any of the remaining shows on this list is okay, KO, let's be heroes. I've seen exactly one episode of that show. If your guess is that that's the episode I saw is the one that Sonic in it, guess what? You're correct.
Okay, apparently Sonic appears in an episode. I have
Yeah.
nothing. I have no idea about that show. Was it good? Was it bad?
I heard good things about it, and
I've heard nothing.
the and as a Sonic fan, I enjoyed the inclusion of Sonic and Tails in it. People have brought up that Sonic's egoism is a bit overplayed in it, and to an extent I agree, but it was still enjoyable and fun, and the art style actually really suits the characters, so that's something.
So, the rest of the shows on this list are present stuff that's currently running on Cartoon Network. Most of these I have not. You mentioned OKKO. Well, no, that ended 29. That ended earlier this year, apparently. Just a few months ago, actually. Apparently, is when it ended. The rest of these are just present series that are currently running. Most of these, I just Apple and Onion. I have know nothing about. Craig of the Creek. I know nothing about. Summer Camp Island. Nothing about. Victor and Valentino. Nothing about. Mau Mau, Heroes of Pure Heart, I know nothing about.
Well,
The only one
if
on
I
this
may,
list I can say that I know something about is Infinity Train. And I still haven't watched it yet, but I definitely highly
something
recommend.
tells me it's not about people on a train watching.
No, Infinity Train is a mystery thing done by the same people who made, by one of, or the same people who made regular show. Yeah, it's created by regular shows Owen Dennis. He was the one to create Infinity Train, and I remember seeing the pilot of this online and instantly falling in love. Like, I highly recommend it based on just the pilot alone. It has a nice little mystery hook to it. It's about a girl who's trapped on this train, and this train has an infinite number of cars, and she's trying to figure out her way off. And there's this, again, there's just big mystery going on with it as well, and just really great, really enjoyable. Highly recommend it. I need to watch the rest of it based on the pilot
Yeah.
alone.
And now, before we close this, there's one show I forgot to mention because it's not on the list, and it's not Cartoon Network original. But as a fan of a certain blue animal, I need to bring this up. Sonic Boom, great show, hilarious. Don't
That's
listen
on
to the
Cartoon Network?
idiots that tell you this show is not good because it's a comedy.
That's on
Because
Cartoon
it's
Network?
great. Yeah, that was on Cartoon Network.
Neat. Um, do you want to mention anything about Toonami or Adult Swim? Or do you think
Some
those
of
would
the
deserve their own
well,
episodes?
for Toonami was mostly anime.
Yes, Toonami was mostly anime.
Yeah, so for if you want our views on
And we
anime,
definitely mentioned Toonami in our anime episode on the Outcast. Go watch that. We need to do another one of those at some point.
yeah.
Um,
So
Adult Swim was, they had Robot Chicken, Family Guy, I think aired on Adult Swim originally, and a bunch of other stuff. Like, I never got huge into Adult Swim. Some of the stuff I watched, I remember. Like I said, Robot Chicken was one. And there's a few other things as well. Space Ghost Coast to Coast, was aired on Adult Swim as well at one point, and I remember catching that there and seeing that. And it took somewhat of a prominent role in that as well. Like, hey, Adult Swim had some stuff that was, enjoyable and decent, but I never really hugely stuck with. Um, I do want to mention Cartoon Network's very small selection of very did not last long at all live action series.
I haven't seen any of them.
I
So
just remember
by all
Destroy Build
means,
Destroy and it being like this thing of, hey, let's just build stuff in this garbage dump and go against like two teams building stuff in this garbage dump and out of garbage and trying to beat each other. I just remember seeing that because it was a thing that was shown in between different, other shows as a small like ad
oops,
thing.
sorry about this. A trailer for something started playing on the wiki.
Oh, you're fine. I can't hear it, so that's fine. Yeah, it was like this terrible game show kind of feel to it, like where you competed to win like a few dollars gift certificate thing. Like it was so bad. It was so bad. Everything in Cartoon Network's live action collection was just not great. Very not great.
I'll I
There
will
was
take
another
your
one
word for
called
it.
Dude, What Would Happen, which was also very bad.
I'll take your word for all of this.
Like, yeah, there was just bad. Like their live action stuff was bad. This is why they mostly stuck with cartoons. It was bad. But yeah,
What can you do?
Cartoon Network has a lot of good cartoons
Mhm.
on it that were really
Yeah,
enjoyable
and
throughout the years.
people have said that it like died for a long time, but
I think they
recently,
had
no.
I think they definitely had some rough patches. I think a lot of their, like I said, a lot of their present stuff I've just grown out of, and I'm just not fond of. To be quite honest, having seen some of it, very little though. But it seems like based off some of the pilot stuff I've seen that they have coming up, I think I could definitely get into it. Like Infinity Train. There's another one that puts me in the mind. I don't know if you remember the name of the show, but El Tigre and Mucha Lucha. They
That
have a
was
show.
Nickelodeon.
Yeah, I know, but like there's a show that Cartoon Network that I've seen a pilot for that kind of takes from El Tigre and Mucha Lucha and has that kind of feel to it, right?
Hmm.
That having seen the pilot of that Cartoon Network has coming up, that I think would definitely be really enjoyable to watch.
Okay, interesting.
But yeah, like they definitely have some interesting stuff coming up in the future that I think will definitely put them back on some people's maps, right?
Well, good to know.
But yeah, like there's definitely some good stuff there and some old stuff that I highly recommend. Like, hey, go back and check it out if you've never seen it, because it was really
Mhm.
good and enjoyable back then, and I think it still stands up now.
Okay, cool. So, anything else to add on Cartoon Network?
No, not really. It was fun and enjoyable.
Mhm. So, I guess with all that said, that's it for this episode of the Outcast. We hope
Mm-hmm.
you enjoyed. What is your favorite Cartoon Network show? You can tell us all about it in the comment below on our Twitter, which is Berkcast Team, Berkcast with a capital C, capital B. Our Tumblr is Berkcast Team. And yeah, so until next time, I was HC.
I was Wolf with so many technical difficulties to get here.
Yep. Get
Hopefully,
get
my
over
new
them.
mic didn't sound
And
too terrible. Let me know in the comments below.
yeah, and we will see you all next time. Take care.
Bye bye.